Hey, what's going on, my friend? Long time no see. Feels good to be back. Today's video is going to share with you information about relationships that no longer serve and how to move on. Now, all of you know exactly what I'm talking about here. You start to wake up, you start to change and grow and expand, and pretty soon you look around and realize you're outgrowing people in your life. You find that you can literally perceive that there are folks in your life that maybe you once had a very secure bond with, just simply no longer resonate, no longer feel like it's a fit. It probably feels forced to be around them. You probably feel exhausted afterwards. But that begs a question. What the heck do you do? It feels wrong to sever a relationship. Or is it foolish to sever a relationship based on my intuition, my perception that the energy is no longer in sync, but there's a part of you that knows. It's a part of you that knows, but it's not easy. And that's why I decided to make a whole video, a whole episode about this. What you're about to see is a recording of a podcast I did with my wife on the topic of, again, relationships that no longer serve you, know what they are, and how to move on. I hope you enjoy. It feels great to be back. Much love. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Welcome to another episode of the Awaken Life podcast. You know me, my name is Victor, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Patty.
Hello.
And today we are going to talk about relationships that no longer serve and how to walk away. This is one of those things that's easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
And yet, when someone starts to go through a spiritual awakening, not for everybody, but for a lot of people, there comes a point where you start to outgrow stuff in your life, circumstances, careers, and people sometimes, because you start to grow at a rare and sort of an unusual rate, vibrationally speaking. So that's why a lot of people going through an awakening, they have a lot, they're always changing. There's always big changes, one after the other, unfolding in their life. Is because their life is being rearranged around the inner growth they are now experiencing. And change for most people is unwelcomed. It's resisted. It's uncomfortable. So it's not easy. And when it comes to relationships, I would say it's one of the hardest things to allow that process of change to kind of go down.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
So we're going to talk. You know, I coach people. I have 2 or 3 coaching groups at all times going on with like 15 to 20 people each. And also I read a lot of comments on Instagram and YouTube and my emails that get sent out. People respond. So what I'm saying is I recognize themes very easily because I just have access to so many of you cool spiritual folks going through an awakening. And one of the themes that came up big time yesterday was a lot of people are becoming aware that certain relationships in their life are not only no longer serving as if it's all about them, but destined, like trying to break away. Like there's that awareness that this relationship is not a match for me anymore. There's an awareness that we're clinging on to a relationship. Like we know that it's appropriate and right and harmonious for there, at least for the time being, to be at the very least a boundary, if not a complete separation. But out of guilt and obligation and all these other things, these ties, these attachments, we cling. But the clinging to those relationships can be extremely painful and stressful. And it just, but again, it's not easy. I don't mean to say these things like it's, well, you just got to do what you know is right in your intuition. It's not easy. But me and Patty have been through this many times over, and we've seen the other side of it. And the other side, of course, is more harmony in yourself, more harmony in your life, new relationships coming in that are a match for your vibration, that will fulfill you immensely and blow your mind. Okay, there's a lot of beautiful, positive things that come along with this. You also get to, well, I don't want to jump ahead too much. We'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, just so you guys know, we're not just talking on our soapbox here saying you need to do this. I'm going to share a quick story that will kind of let you know that, Patty and I know what it's like to be in your shoes. So in high school, I had a big group of friends. I smile as I think about them because we had so much fun, man. We partied, we got into trouble. We were really rebellious and we just ripped up the town every day, mobbing 10, 20 people deep, rocking out. It was badass. I felt so close. They were like my family, man. So close with them. I was gone all day, every day. I'd spend the night at my buddy Chuck's house 5 nights a week. It was so amazing. But there came a point where I started to go through the spiritual awakening, and I started to become interested in different things. I started to really see, partying so much and getting high and drunk all the time. It was just making me unhappy more so than before. And not only that, I became aware that certain people, like the closeness I thought I had with some of these people was not the reality. It was just sort of the way I was seeing it in the past was like we were like a family, but there were certain things that came to light that made me aware that, you know what, I don't think they think of me the way I thought. Like there wasn't that real true brotherhood and sisterhood that I once thought. And I started to kind of see like the shadow aspects of my friends and how, when it came down to it, they just weren't, at least some of them weren't reciprocating the friendship as much as I was, at least in my opinion. And regardless of who's right or wrong in the matter, it was more like I knew there needed to be, I knew for me to be happy and empowered and take the next step in my life, I need to distance myself from them. And I did. It was, in our case, we ended up moving, so it made it kind of easy. But what I'm getting into is there was this one time that we came back to visit. And it was like me and Patty, and like my 4 or 5 core group of friends, real close friends. And there was a Guns N' Roses concert in town. And we were diehard rock fans, especially Guns N' Roses, especially me. But we all loved the band. And the whole time we were in high school, the band was separated. They were like fighting or whatever for like over a decade. They were not playing music together. And it was like, we thought it was a cardinal sin because they were so awesome. Well, finally, Axl Rose got it together with this other band, and they went and they toured, and they came to Detroit where me and Patty were visiting from Florida at the time. And my friends and I, we got concert tickets, and at this point, it's been a while, maybe, 6 months to a year since we were hanging out. And I was thinking in my mind, like, this is it. This is not only the GNR reunion, this is like the reunion of my friends. Like I had so much hope, like this could be what really rebonded us, because I missed them. I had broken away from them and I missed them. I had no guy friends really that were close. But that concert to me was like a smack in the face with reality. It's because it was almost as if when we were together, it was just more undeniable than ever, more obvious than ever that this was me and maybe us holding on to something that's no longer there. Things have changed. We have changed. The bond we once shared is no more, and that's the reality. I could literally see visually the dissonance, almost like a glitch in the matrix. Like there's a vibrational mismatch here, and it was just like so hard for me to accept. But that night was enough clarity to where I realized like there's just no point of holding on. It is what it is. I'm sad, but I realized the futility of hanging on. But it didn't make it easy. So do you have has that ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Because they were my friends. You were there, but you weren't as affected, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I have my own story, and I have a few different similar things, relationship things like you. But one that's coming in for me is I had this friend who we were really close. At one point, her house, it didn't burn to the ground, but it caught on fire, and there was severe damage, and they couldn't live in it for months. And she stayed with me for like a few months during that time when we were like in 8th grade. So we were really, really pretty close. But the eye-opener was after we graduated from high school, and this was like a couple of years after, I started noticing that every time she would come to my house and then she would leave, it'd be like, okay, thank God she's gone. Because it was just exhausting to be around her. And we still had fun when we were together, and there was still that like closeness. And if I ever needed anything or she ever needed anything, we would be there for each other. But there was that undeniable vibrational mismatch that was draining me exponentially. And that was for me the tipping point of making the decision that it was time to start pulling away. And like you said, moving away had made it easier for our relationship to sort of phase out. Mm-hmm. So, and then when we ended up moving back, and when we moved back, I just didn't regain contact with her. So for me, that was the easy, like, pulling away and releasing. It wasn't like she'd be like, oh, we should get coffee, and I'd be like, yeah, let's get coffee. But then like she wouldn't text me or she wouldn't call. So it was like a very obvious phasing out, and that happened naturally and effortlessly for me. I didn't have that. The universe was very gentle with me as far as releasing relationships.
Well, a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times life does try to create some space, whether it's one moves away or your job positions change or whatever it is.
You just become busier.
And on the other side, usually they're feeling the same thing. Like it's becoming harder for them to reach out. They find themselves not thinking to call you, etc. But sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes it involves family, and there needs to be like a conscious break in a way. But anyway, we shared these stories. We have many others just to kind of let you know. We know what it's like to be in this situation. We've had to let go of a ton of relationships over the years.
Including family members for me.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy, but there's a flip side. We're going to tell you the flip side, which you probably already can know. But beyond that, we're going to give you 5 practical tips from the trenches that we really believe will help you tremendously do what you know needs to be done. Okay. Anyway, what's the flip side? Well, the flip side initially is loneliness and despair, depression. No, just kidding. It is loneliness though. A lot of times we kind of like, we let go of something and there's not something right away to replace it. And then it's like this loneliness can sometimes lead us back to where we came because we deem it better than being having lonely. Nothing. Mm-hmm. But it's like a lot of things with involving manifestation. We need to create space in our consciousness, in our being, in our life, and then that allows new stuff to come in. But we live on Earth, so things don't happen instantaneously. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, rarely though. So there's that lull, that lonely lull, right? Which we have both found value in. Sometimes this lonely phase, loneliness does suck, and I think that as human creatures, there's like an organic biological yearning for connection with other. Just at least some relationship of some sort with even a dog or something. And without it, there is something missing. So, but what we found is that even though that's the case, there's good that came out of that. There's more time for self-reflection, self-discovery, really figuring out, well, who am I? A lot of times we don't have really the time or the energy to discover who we are when we're so caught up in these life obligations and relationships and careers. It's good to recluse sometimes and figure out who you are, who you want to become. And then you start to kind of like regain yourself. And then you get to go back into life as the real authentic you. And then you're more of a clear magnet for the types of relationships that are actually a vibrational match for who you truly are. Mm-hmm. And when that comes in, which is the flip side, the new relationships, the new career, the new life, the new harmony, the new ease, the new joy, the new fulfillment, that all comes in. And it's like, wow, holy cow, I didn't know life could get this good.
Yeah, the one thing that I forgot to mention was that as I was like phasing out of that friendship, I asked myself, if I had met her today, right now, would I become friends with this person as she is right now? And my answer was no. And so that was like my big sign of like, okay, this has got to go. But then it allowed for me to ask myself, well, what kind of friendship do I want? What kind of person do I want to be friends with? And that has shifted and evolved, but that period of loneliness, I mean, that without like deep friendships, that went for years. I mean, I had some friends that I could like talk to a little bit, it was surface level friendships. But they help to fill that void of loneliness temporarily. But then that lonely period, I don't want to say empty period because that just sounds like, ooh. But the period where you get to decide what type of person do I want to be friends with? What type of conversations do I want to have with my friends? What type of things do we want to do? And that's really beautiful and empowering to say, like, I like these types of people, and these are the types of people that I want to have in my life as a friend. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Even the relationships that fade out, even if there's a lot of pain and struggle, they serve as valuable information and valuable contrast to help you really dial in on like what is important to you in a relationship, which of course is a very multifaceted thing. So that can be helpful. But yeah, the flip side is new people come in, man, and it's amazing. I remember I went for a little while there without any guy friends, and I had
because you had lots of girlfriends too that I didn't know about.
No, but I had the family. See,
yeah,
I had the family, and I'm blessed to have you all. But there was something missing. Like I needed like my boys, my guy friends, just people I can go and have a different type of relationship with.
Different conversations, different levels of understanding. Like as much as I love you and as close as we are, there's a certain things that I can't fulfill for you because I am not a man,
and vice versa.
And the same goes, for me. So it's really really beautiful to have someone of the same gender as you that you can converse with and get close with. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and I went for a little while there to the point where I had like given up. I had like given up hope and just sort of came to a fairly peaceful acceptance that I guess I just won't have cool guy friends. Maybe I'm just too spiritual or something, I thought. Right?
Oh,
but then
that spiritual ego come in.
It was exactly. But then I met Aaron, my friend Aaron Dowdy. Most of you have heard of him or seen me with him. And then like dozens and dozens and dozens of other relationships have come in, all types of like mentor figures, friends, assistants, where I'm kind of a mentor to them, employees, just acquaintances, the people I work with, the people I run into on the street. All tends to be a different quality of vibration due to all that stuff we had to go through and let go of, and all the work we've done on ourselves is now being reflected in all the different relationships in our life. And when that started to happen, it was just so fulfilling to me. It was like a lot of my awakening involved me wanting to be more free, to be more abundant, to have more peace in my life. But like the relationships really have been what colored my life. And it was kind of like an unexpected surprise. But that's the other flip side. That's the result of following your intuition, even when it means letting go of someone does not belong in your life anymore. But with that said, we're going to share with you some tips to make this more practical and doable, and I think a lot smoother for you all. Okay? So tip number 1 is that you deserve to be happy. You deserve to be happy. Why not? Why not you? A lot of times, relationships, not a lot of times, but sometimes we're in a relationship that once was appropriate, once there was harmony, but now it's become seen because you're waking up and you're seeing it in a different, more accurate light that this relationship is very unbalanced. It's very one-sided. It's draining your energy. It's sucking the life out of you. It's preventing you from being the person it's time to be. And it's keeping you miserable. So I always look at it like if it was my child and they were in a relationship like that, what would I want for them? I'd say, you deserve to be happy, honey. You deserve to fly. But when it comes to us, it's like, well, sometimes we don't think we deserve it, but we all do.
Yeah.
This kind of was what helped me close my gym. Because a lot of you know I owned a gym and I closed it down out of intuition to pursue the YouTube thing. Won't get into all that. But it was really hard to let go of, not only because it was like scary financially and I didn't like the idea of having to start over, but a lot of like what caused me to cling towards the end there was the people involved. Like I had a business partner who was a good friend of mine named Marvin. And I had other trainers and all the clients, and I felt like if I close this down, if I leave, then it's not going to be around anymore. So I felt this real strong guilt and moral obligation to keep it going. But eventually, it was just shown to me that in spite of that, energetically, it was becoming impossible to hang on to. It was sucking the life out of me, and it was making me miserable, and therefore I was became kind of a snappy asshole father and kind of an absent, aloof sort of husband. And it was just I could not deny that I was just clinging onto something that didn't belong, and it wasn't right for me. It wasn't right to my family. And it came to I realized I'm a young man. I deserve to be happy. And I know that my higher self, my intuition would not lead me away from this if there wasn't a greater good underlying that decision. It wasn't just me selfishly pursuing my hobbies. It was like there was a spiritual force saying, you got to let this go because there's another step to take in life that you have to do. And it's going to be better on all levels for you and for everybody. It's not good for them to cling and uphold this dying structure that is not really in harmony with the force of life any longer. And I deserve to be happy. They deserve to be happy. I deserve, So anyway, that was my rationale. Some might say, wow, you're an asshole. But that was sort of what went on in my head. And I concluded that I deserve to be happy. And I think that sort of notion can be applied to a lot of relationships, in particular a toxic one.
Yeah. And also, too, I want to add that you deserve to be happy, but everyone else deserves to be happy as well. And if you're feeling that there's a relationship that needs to be let go of, or if you're in a toxic, abusive relationship or friendship or any of those things, it's not good for them either if you keep clinging. So it's better for everyone involved. And even just as a side note, his gym, the people that were really being helped actually started phasing out. They wouldn't show to sessions, or they were too busy with work, so they'd have to cancel. It was a lot. It was phasing out on all levels for everyone else too. So you weren't just being a selfish asshole, just
right.
So
I agree.
So you don't have to carry that, but yeah, it's in your best interest for you to be happy, because then other people, it gives them permission to be happy themselves too.
Yeah. I agree.
Like when you were like, you deserve to be happy, I just thought, oh man, I'm just going to drink that in, because that's so powerful just to know and say, I do deserve to be happy, because a lot of us settle for jobs we don't like, or friendships that are mediocre, but not super fulfilling, or relationships that maybe we're not as to our best potential. If you're in a if you're in a relationship with someone that and it's toxic for you, it's toxic for them. You're not in the relationship alone. It is toxic for them too. So really, by you saying I deserve to be happy, you're also saying you deserve to be happy too.
Yeah, I agree fully. Yeah.
I just felt like I went on a rant.
That's okay. Rants can be good. So number 2 is it's okay to feel sad. that I think is what prevents a lot of people from moving on. I remember, and it's like a lot of things in life. Like I had a gym, I'm going back to this, and this is more my relationship with the gym itself. It was a true creation of my heart's passions, that whole gym, everything about it, at least in the beginning. So I knew it was time to fade away. I knew there was something else I wanted to do that was exciting, that was like better, the YouTube thing. And I just felt called to do it. But I'll never forget what it was like sitting in my car or my truck or whatever, when I went and like put the keys in the empty shop. I like opened the door, put my keys in the empty shop, kind of tossed them in there and left and closed the door for the very last time. I was very sad. But that is not necessarily a reason to not do that, because that chapter was closing. And if it wasn't for me accepting that, I would have never done a lot of the amazing things I've gotten to experience in my life, like starting a YouTube channel and reaching people like you with this podcast and meeting all these cool other people. And my life has blossomed from that point forward so powerfully. But the reality was, it was sad. There's a part of me that misses the gym and feels like, you know what? That was an amazing time. All the fun memories that were created and experienced there, those are very real and very valid. But, it was just time to move on. And the sadness was very short-lived and soon replaced with excitement and passion and a new mountain to climb. And it was but in the past, I would let that sort of stop me from moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 3, and this might come as good news for a lot of you, is that goodbye for now doesn't always mean goodbye forever. And we've seen that a lot in our life, have we not?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's appropriate for you and for them to set a boundary, create some space or whatever. But that doesn't always mean forever. Yeah. A lot of times the two parties will go off, and in their separateness, they'll experience certain growth spurts. And then sometimes you can kind of come back together as new, more fully aligned and authentic people. And there can be a kind of a rekindling of that relationship. Sometimes the rekindling is with a different distance or a different boundary. Mm-hmm. But regardless, goodbye for now does not mean goodbye forever. We've seen this a lot with our friends and family from back home. Mm-hmm. There was a time where we knew we had to move away. We knew we had to move away. We knew we needed the boundaries. We knew we needed to work on ourselves. Mm-hmm. But to our own surprise, we found ourselves like able to kind of go back and develop relationships once again with these people who we had sort of like parted from temporarily. And it's a better relationship. All that drama, all that like angst and the energetic imbalance and the unresolved issues were gone. And there was just the pleasantness of having these people in our life. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. I have a story.
Please tell.
Okay. So I have two sisters, but one of them in particular, I'm going to share a little story. So hopefully it won't be too long. But one of my sisters got married, and I was her maid of honor. My other sister stood up in the wedding as well. And during the reception, we were having drinks, and I don't know even what happened at this point. It's been many years now. But my sister, not the one who got married, ended up getting upset with me about something. And she was yelling at me at the wedding reception, yelling at me in my face so close I could feel her breath on my face. That's how close she was yelling at me. And I just was like so taken aback. I didn't even know what to do. I came home, I was crying because I was just so upset by what had happened. And I sent my sister an email because it was obvious to me at that point that she had some serious resentment for me that I knew nothing about, and still don't to this day. And we didn't speak. I don't even know if she ever got my email. We never spoke of it. But we didn't speak for an entire year. And in that time, that was the time that was necessary for us to separate, because we at one point were really close, and I was kind of entangled in her life, and the dramas and things that were in it. But it allowed for me to do my own personal growth and do my own personal work. I don't know if she ever did any work, but that's not for me to say whether or not she needs it. That's her choice. And when we finally talked again, we didn't even speak. She just looked at me and I looked at her, and we just hugged. And that was like our rekindling of our sister relationship again. Now, having said that, it is with a lot more distance and boundaries. I am not at all entangled in her life. She doesn't call me if she's having any issues, and I don't do that with her either. But when we're together, it's really great. We can just chat about what's going on in our lives and have a really beautiful connection that is really what it should be, you know? Mm-hmm. So whatever, if she had resentment for me, or she was able to either release that or not allow for her resentment for me to cloud our relationship anymore.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, perfect. So you pretty much summed that up nicely. So I'll move on to the next one, which you kind of already stated, but it helps them as well. Right?
Yeah.
Like hanging on out of guilt and fear, it almost reinforces a state of consciousness that's sort of driving you away in the first place. And if not for you, you know, with your example, like shedding light on that by, you know, it gives them the opportunity to look at themselves. Why would this person leave my life? Mm-hmm. And then there's at least a chance for them to look at themselves and learn and grow, and maybe not push away other important people in their life, or even maybe change so that allow you to feel like it's okay to come back. Mm-hmm. Right? Was that the case with you and your mom a little bit?
Yeah. I forgot all about that one. Yeah. So, my mom and I have always had sort of like a strange relationship. But when we moved to Las Vegas, I had a revelation, I think would be the best way, was that, and the revelation was that, because I completely cut her off. I wouldn't respond to her texts, and you know, and I realized that's not good for her either. So I decided that it would be a good idea to start calling her like once a week. And that lasted for 3 weeks in a row. And the first time was, oh my God, we talked for like 2 hours. It was great. The second time was not quite as long and not quite as great. And the third time was the reminder for me to why I stopped doing that. Then I just stopped calling her as much. And I think because I had called her the 3 weeks in a row, that was an opportunity for her to really get to know me,
meet the new you,
get to know who I am, you know, as a adult woman, mother, wife, friend, daughter. Because she never really got to know me. She had her own view of who I was, and it wasn't at all accurate. And so fast forward to February, my mom and my aunt came to visit, and we saw them every day for a few days in a row. And before they left, my mom was saying goodbye to me, and she said, you know, you have a really beautiful family and a beautiful home, and your kids are just amazing, and I want you to know I'm really proud of you. And I also know that you basically raised yourself. So basically what she was saying is that I see where you are at, And I know that I really didn't have much of a part in you becoming as great as you are in her mind, you know, was what she was trying to say. And as a narcissist, codependent, that's like unheard of. So in the 3 years that we've been living in Vegas, and I've had that sort of distant relationship, but still connecting with her, because it's, when I cut her off, I realized it wasn't fair to her. And she didn't even understand why I cut her off, because as a narcissistic codependent, they don't even think they have anything to do with that kind of thing. It was a really beautiful opportunity for her to look at herself and where she's at in her life, and see, you know, where she, I don't want to say where she went wrong, but I know that's where she's looking at it from, because I don't look at anything that she did as wrong, because for me, it helped make me who I am. So
Yeah.
I'm like grateful for that, you know? And, yeah. So I mean, that it was a really powerful. Now, not everyone who has a narcissistic codependent mom is going to have that same experience, but just as an example, that was her chance to look at herself and look at where she had a part in my life and what she was responsible for or not for. And yeah.
Yeah, you at least gave her the chance. And yeah, so that's a great example, because like the amount of transformation that she experienced as a direct result of you simply following the flow of your own intuition in regards to where your placement within the relationship is appropriate, was potentially very life-changing and transformative to her as a person and a soul. So
yeah, and I do want to add too, she did have her own things, like she had cancer that she survived from. So there was, she also moved and houses. So she had been looking at, you know, old pictures and things like that. So she had a lot of big shifts in her life that helped to facilitate her own personal growth in that. So,
Sure.
So,
but if you would have stayed
yeah.
like the same and just sort of under her wing the way she had preferred years ago,
Oh God.
the transformation very well could not have been to the same degree, I would think.
Yeah. Well, if I hadn't done my own personal growth, there would be zero relationship with her, because I would still resent her. So
there you go.
that would
Yeah.
that would be where I would have cut her off completely, and we wouldn't speak at all. But that
Yeah.
doesn't serve me. That wouldn't have served me at all. That would have just been me holding on to the resentment of you know, my upbringing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then lastly, one final tip, just a word to the why, something, because for me, there were many people that faded out of my life, and it became, in a sense, easier because I sort of understood the process. I could recognize the signs, and I became a lot faster just to let go and move on, knowing it was kind of inevitable. So I got to a point for me where I was like almost too cold about it, because I was able to see it from a spiritual perspective, at least for a while there, where I knew it was appropriate. I knew we had the souls came together for the time being,
certain
and it's
purpose.
okay to move on. But what I failed to really keep in mind was that not everyone saw it like that with such acceptance, you know. And there was just one time where me and Patty were living in Florida. I had a float guy. Remember the float guy?
I remember
Emmanuel.
the float.
He had a sensory deprivation tank in his house. He was my float guy, and I go see him once a week, and we talk. He was like a spiritual coach to me in a sense. He was a Kundalini. He had a Kundalini awakening, and he was a Kundalini master. And anyways, really, really cool dude. And we developed kind of a relationship for a while. He was like the only person I could go and like talk about my experiences with. Anyway, there's this one time I went to his house and I sat down, and I was like really in a good state. I was feeling very tapped in, very clear, almost abnormally so. And I could tell that at least at that time, from my perspective, my presence in that moment triggered him. And I saw his ego. I saw how like I was triggering him, where some of the things I was saying, he almost responded with a little bit of like, what's the word I'm looking for? He responded with almost like, I can't think of the word. Like he was triggered and almost like envious, which led to him like almost like like mocking what I had said. And anyway, it was like just very clear the way I could see his ego. And it was the first time I ever saw it. So I never went back. I never went back to see him again. I didn't respond to his emails. I just said, oh, he's not meant to be in my life. I don't like what I saw. I'm done. And anyway, not that he was probably horribly broken up about it, but I'm sure he was like, what was going on with that? Heck? That's not, he probably didn't know what to think of it. So I realized that it's not cool just to break away so quickly just because it becomes easier. So eventually I reached back out to him and sent him an email and apologized. And I don't know, he responded. I don't remember what he said exactly, but it felt like the right thing to do. But I learned from that circumstance to like be real compassionate with the way I let people go, and sort of really becoming mindful of where they're at in their journey and the way they probably see the situation, and doing my best to make it as smooth and kind for them as possible.
Yeah.
So anyways, my friends, this is not an easy thing to discuss, because even with all these tips and all these experiences and the understanding that new stuff comes in, it doesn't make it easy. It doesn't make it easy. But in the end, it's for the best. It's for the best you, for the best them. It puts us all back into alignment with like the whole, with God, if you will, with the cosmos. And in this wholeness, life is at it's like best case scenario life on all levels for you and for them. And you never know what the future holds. Again, a lot of our relationships have come back around, and there's more joy and harmony.
Yeah. And the relationships that we do have are so deep that the friendships that I have now, I don't even like to call them friendships because they're so deep. It's like we've been on the, I know that's like, yeah, we've done this before, like not in this life, but in a past life or something, it's so deep and so meaningful. And there's just so much like genuine love that's involved. And you can't put a time frame on when that's going to come into your life. Just allow for it to come in.
Yes, exactly. And it reminds me of, remember when my friend Drew Canoli came to our retreat last time, and he spoke, and someone asked him, I think it was Ingrid asked him about like family and letting go of family or something. And cause she asked him because Drew had shared that he had to be rescued from his family at like 5 years old. Yeah. The things that he endured, I won't even get into on this podcast. It's so dark and so twisted. Yeah. And it's a miracle that he is who he is. But anyway, someone asked, like, well, how do you cope with that? Like not having a family? He said, well, what did he say exactly? It's very beautiful. He said, like, I find new family each and every day.
Yeah.
And he was implying that he has a lot of people that have come into his life that are soul family. There's that depth. There's a legitimate soul family that exists on the planet. And some of you are with them now and don't even realize it, and some of you have yet to reunite with them. But it's a very real thing, and they are on the horizon, and they will come into your life, but you do have to let go of what you know no longer serves you first. That is step one. But the result is, it's just like, it's a divine joy. It cannot even be put into words how profoundly beautiful it is to meet someone and to feel that depth of soul-like love for them, and have many people just like that in your life, where you just know you've traveled through worlds and dimensions and lifetimes after lifetimes after lifetimes together. Yeah. And that's what awaits you, my friends.
Yeah, and I've been saying for a long time that just because someone shares your DNA doesn't mean that they're your family. Mm-hmm. And your soul knows who your family is.
Yes.
And when they come into your life, then the mind knows.
Yeah, the mind gets on board. Yeah. But anyway, my friends, we wish you well. Have an amazing time until we see you next. Much love to you all. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the reviews you leave on Amazon, or not on Amazon.
Yeah.
iTunes, rather. They help the podcast grow, and we appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Until next time,
much.
namaste.
Namaste.